Thanks to the support as a channel member, Russ Eddy. Well, that was the weirdest football season I've ever been a part of. Almost got sacked. Started the season at a different club. Let's not forget that. Almost got sacked. Won the Champions League. Don't really know how secure my job is going into the summer transfers and next season. This is going to be a weird summer. Hello, welcome to Club 3, Part 9 of Non-League to Legend. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode is our season review and transfer special after our first season at Tottenham. I still don't know how to describe it. What a weird thing. As you can see, of course, we did win the Champions League, which I will emphasize again because I've still, despite addressing it a couple of times in videos previously, I'm clearly not doing it early enough in the videos and people are still getting confused. That obviously doesn't mean the series has ended. The goal of the series is not to win the Champions League. The goal of the series is to become a legend, have a legendary football manager career, a complete story, a career that feels finished. And I'm sure you'll all agree that not even 12 months at Tottenham after never finishing in I've still barely finished in the top half of the Premier League in my career. We've fluked one Champions League. That is not a legendary managerial career. Ask Roberto Di Matteo and any number of other managers who fluked a Champions League in their career. We obviously continue from here and assume that continuation is going to be with Tottenham. There's still a rebuild job that is partway through here at Spurs. That being said, after they were so close to sacking me, I will always have one eye on the available jobs around the rest of Europe because I do feel if we start the season badly, I might be showing the door fairly early on, which will be ridiculous, but oh so very Spursy. So these were the signings of the season. As you can see, all the good ones are the ones that I did. Although actually, to be fair, it doesn't look like it includes oh no, it does include signings from before I arrived. Ravella I didn't sign. So does that mean the only player they signed this summer before I arrived was Ravella? No wonder they've struggled so much. No wonder we had so much money left over to spend. But signing of the season has gone to Sen. I think we all have to agree with that. 17 goals from 11 starts really does demonstrate how I probably took a little bit too long to get him into the team. We might have had less of a stress in the league towards the end of the season if I'd have figured out just what we had with Ismail Sen a little earlier. But we got there in the end. He played so well that it made Harry Kane retire a year before the end of his contract. And we brought in some other decent players as well. Valente, of course, from Preston, Bazunu, who was a panic buy when Kobel got injured, turned out very well. And even Egoitz Hernandez, who I gave a little bit of stick to, we all gave a little bit of stick to. He's been a very useful squad player to have around the place. And Flynn Posselt, I'm sure will become good. He's 22 and already classed as an elite player. Not necessarily shown it for us just yet, but he has been spending most of his time so far playing out of position as the right-sided centre-back. Both he and Valente are left-sided centre-backs. This is where we need to go and bring in De Klerk from Preston this summer to make the right-sided centre-back his position, and then Valente and Posselt can compete for the left-sided position and both show us just how good they are. But overall, very happy with the transfers so far. There's obviously still a lot more to come there. We did end up finishing 8th, as we know, which, because we won the Champions League, has been enough to qualify us for the Champions League, where we'll be joined by Preston, the team we started the club managing, who finished down in 10th place. And we're 2 of 6 English teams that are going to be in the Champions League. Man City having to miss out and do the Europa League. And it doesn't look like anyone goes into the Conference League. The board are disappointed we only managed to finish in the top half, despite, I'm pretty sure, them saying they wanted me to finish top half when I arrived. I'd have to go back and check the tapes, but I think that's all they asked for. It's been discussed a little bit in the comment section. I think they moved the goalposts after I got the job. I'd love somebody to go back and verify. Obviously, Champions League, we got an A+ for, but Premier League, which is the most important thing, we only got the D. We do need to start the season strong in the Premier League. If we're not top 6 after 5 or 6 matches, I could see next season being problematic. We have been bumped up to 5-star worldwide reputation, though, so that should make things a little easier when it comes to transfers this summer. What a difference a Champions League win makes, both in terms of that and, of course, all the money that has flooded in as well, in particular, competition prize money. Winning the Champions League is a big deal. Son and Kane still in the top 5 for top shirt sales. They've both now retired or are on the cusp of retiring. So very much a changing of the guard this summer as we look to continue bringing in more young players. And then this was our team of the year. So interesting that Sen did do enough, despite only 11 starts, to be in the team of the year ahead of Kane. So no room for Kane, no room for Son. Trilly gets the right-sided centre-back spot because he's the only player at the club who can do it. Gallan, of course, left us back in January. And there are other players here that we probably will look to move on in terms of age as we continue the rebuild this summer. Porro, potentially Barella, maybe Ravella. Maybe we do a complete rebuild in the centre of midfield. But Mudryk and Kulusevski, I think, are both 29 or 30 as well. So there's some injection of youth needed in all of the midfield positions. We did the defence, we did up front, and we did in goal back in January. Now I think the focus is on this midfield 5 and just trying to freshen that up with some younger players. That being said, Mudryk at 29 did get Fans Player of the Year. Rooney Bargy at 24, also an elite winger. He's one that will obviously be sticking around. And he got Young Player of the Year. Sen, we know, his signing of the season, goal of the season went to Mudryk. Kane did finish top scorer in his final season at Tottenham. Final season as a professional footballer. And Mudryk, 28 assists is pretty spectacular. That, of course, is a new club record. Porro also setting a club record for worst discipline. Kane finishes off his record as all-time top Tottenham goal scorer of 275 goals. That's the marker he's put down for the end of his career. And Vallejo at 58 million is actually the most expensive player we've ever bought, which surprises me that Spurs have never spent more than 58 million pounds on a player. And it's really surprising that we chose to spend that money on a backup left back. So that feels like Kev things. Maybe if I'd have known I was breaking our all-time transfer record, I might have thought twice about it. But we've brought in lots more social media followers. Again, what a difference a Champions League win makes. And the board are delighted that we've grown the club's reputation a year ahead of schedule. So hopefully they can go easy on me a little bit now. What are they looking for this coming season? Right, they don't want me to bring in any old men. Continue to focus on bringing in players under the age of 23. This is what we'd already been doing. They're already delighted with this stuff. So hopefully last season's Premier League finish can be water under the bridge now. They want me to continue to have a good youth system, sign players, sell them at a profit. No old players. Yeah. And for the end of this season, they want me to challenge for the Champions League. So I don't know what round does challenge for the Champions League. Reach the final of the Champions League as a minimum. So they are requiring as a minimum that we get to the final of the Champions League and finish top 4 in the Premier League. I might get fired, you know. I don't know if we're ready to do that yet. That Champions League last season was definitely a fluke. I don't expect another run to the final with this squad of players. And I don't know that this team is good enough to finish top 4 in the Premier League either. We've just finished 8th. I know we had a iffy start to the season, but I'm not so sure. I am not so sure, especially because we don't really have a lot of money to spend. I'm a little nervous about those objectives, especially when the board have already made it very clear they're quite happy to give me the boot if need be. Right, let's, we're aiming to qualify. We'll tell the players we're aiming for this. We're going to aim to reach the final. That sounds a bit ambitious. Lee, I agree with you. I'll back down. The board seemed quite keen for that as an objective, though. And I probably should remind you, Lee, we did just win the final. So it's not completely unrealistic for us to get to the final again. But that all seems very rushed. I feel like that should have been the objective another year or two down the line. Maybe I've made a rod for my own back with this whole Champions League win thing. Because we're now in a position where we're obviously going to lose. We're going to lose Kane. We're going to lose Son. Yes, that's money that goes into the wage budget. We've not been able to sell those players. So it's not transfer money that we can bring in. So we're kind of going to be restricted to not spending much on transfer fees. It kind of rules out de Klerk, although we have got a load of wage budget spare. So if we were to do, I'm talking about a midfield, and I'm still talking about de Klerk. He's probably not the highest priority right now. I really want him. There are still players we need to move on from here as well. How's Kulusevski? See, Kulusevski's 30. but he's great. So I don't mind keeping him for another year. But then you look at Kvaratskhelia as 29. Okay, we can keep him for another year. Milinkovic-Savic is 35 years old. He's still got a year on his £100,000 a week contract. He's got to leave this summer. We've got to get rid of him. Who the hell is he? I don't even recognise this guy's name. Anyone ever seen this man before? Did I sign him? I don't think I signed him. I don't know where he's come from. But then Mudryk is 29. So again, I guess we keep Mudryk around. Brindley's obviously a youngster coming through. But we're looking for our men. Ravella is nothing special, but I guess is fine as one of 4 midfielders. He was relatively cheap when he was brought in. He's fine, but not exciting. And then you look at the rest of the midfield and you're like, that kind of applies to all of them. Barella is good, but at 33, he turns 34 this coming season. Yes, he's got 17 for his natural fitness, but he is just going to hit a wall at some point, and we don't know when it's going to be. It could be this year. I mean, if you look at his career ratings-wise, this has been the worst he's played ever. That was his worst season since the start of the save at 6.96. How much of that is that he was playing in a poor team for half a season, and how much of that is that he is a player in decline? Because if he's a player in decline, then we've got a big problem. It doesn't seem like he is, but he could start at any point. He could start declining. And then if he moves, and if we end up with just 2 average central midfielders, Milinkovic-Savic is gone, Hernandez is very average as well. This definitely seems like the area where we need 1 or 2 world-class players. But they're expensive. And then you get to the defence again, and yeah, Brindley, Vallejo, we're fine at left back. At right back, we've got this ridiculous scenario where Porro and Bullet earn over £500,000 a week between them. So in an ideal world, we sell them both and bring in 2 cheaper options, because Porro's 30 and not going to get any better. Bullet is already maxing out his potential and is very average and not worth that kind of money. So we'd like to get rid of both of them, but who on earth is going to take them when they're on that kind of money? Probably nobody. They've both got 2 years left on their contract. We might be stuck with both of them. So we can't really do anything there without forcing them out the door. And if we force them out the door, we might upset them and they might still not go. And then we're stuck with upset versions of average right backs and no money to replace them with if we're not able to get some anywhere near these kind of fees. And then, of course, we've got the whole only 3 centre-backs thing. Really would like to bring in de Klerk, but de Klerk would take every penny that we've currently got. I mean, we couldn't do any of the rest of this stuff, so maybe we have to rule him out as a plan completely. So, and of course, we've got to replace Kane, because we've only got 1 striker now. We've got Sen. That's it. Unless we're counting Tall, but I kind of think we probably move Tall on. So I don't think he's very good. There's a lot we need to do. What other jobs are available? Because this is looking really hard. All of a sudden, like really, really hard. Which is, it's so weird when we've just won the Champions League. But, I mean, Man City's available. Because obviously they've just done a massive bottle job season. Dare I? Pep Guardiola is the favourite for the Man City job, by the way, which is absurd. He left there 7 years ago. Was sacked 7 years ago, looking at that. So they've sacked him. Did they sack him? Departed at the end of his contract. Okay, so I guess you could argue he maybe departed on good terms, had a year off, went to manage Spain, then came to Tottenham, where he did get sacked, and then Bayer Leverkusen and was sacked. So it's not as if his managerial stock is currently high. Do I want to go to Man City? It would be a weird move for this point of the save, but at the same time, if you were to ask me who do I think I'd be more likely to be able to win the Premier League with, it would be this Manchester City team. Which, I mean, it's a similar problem to what we had when we arrived at Spurs. It's an aging team, but it's an aging team at a club where there's still a prime Erling Haaland knocking around, and they've still presumably got gazillions of pounds of money. So I'm not restricted to a £30 million transfer budget like I am here. Should I? I've just won the Champions League. There's no big European jobs available, which is annoying. Manchester City is an interesting prospect. Well, I have applied for the Manchester City job after much pondering, but they seem to be taking an absolute age to decide what they're actually going to do with it. In the meantime, there's nothing else interesting that's come up. Pep Guardiola is still the favourite. Several weeks have passed, and we've started early on our transfers because I'm kind of assuming I'm not going to get the Man City job, and we had much business to do. So we've had a number of players leave the club, already left. Milinkovic-Savic has gone to Wolves for 1.9 million. Ameth Tall has gone to Fulham for 19.25 million. Gregor Kobel to Wolves for 23 million pounds. We've also got some pre-arranged players heading out of the club. Bullet is joining Barcelona for 30.5 million pounds. That's one of the expensive right backs gone. And Pedro Porro, the other expensive right back, is off to Juventus for 39.5 million pounds. We've also got Calvin Phillips at the end of his contract. He's going to be joining Leeds on a free transfer. And there's so much wage budget that's going to be freed up by these players leaving. We're currently spending 4.1 million pounds on contracts. Our committed spending is 2.8 million. So that's those three that are arranged to leave. We've also got Christensen, who's out of contract, Son and Kane, who are both retiring. And there's probably others that are out of contract that have skipped my mind. But even before all that's happened, we have got some transfers in as well. So we got the man we wanted all along. Ulysses de Klerk is now a Tottenham player. We have our right-sided centre-back, the big 6'3" hero from Preston, comes in for quite a lot more than I spent for him at Preston. But because Preston qualified for the Champions League, we were actually able to get him with some of it on instalments rather than all in one go, doing his release clause, which would have been done before, which it was weird. We got him for less because they got in the Champions League. Before, they were just quoting their Champions League club release fee. But as soon as they qualified as well, it was like, oh, well, we'll negotiate then. So we did. So we've not had to pay all of that up front. We've also signed a couple of new right backs. So Francis Okonkwo is a 23-year-old Spanish former under-21 international. He's 6'4". That's the main reason I've gone for this guy. I like a big, meaty 6'4" fullback who's just going to basically be a battering ram up and down that right-hand side. So he's been brought in for that purpose. If that doesn't work, we have a slightly more fancy method of getting the breakthrough on the right-hand side with Luis Blanco, who's a 22-year-old former Spanish under-21 international, who's a natural right-back, but can also play centre-back. He's 5'9", so he won't, but can also play centre-mid and attacking midfield. He's very quick, much more skillful, completely different kind of player. Neither of them are what you'd actually call an out-and-out right-back or proper defender right-back. And worryingly, I think we need to have a word with our scouts, which I'm a little bit confused about because our scouts are the best in the Premier League and our coaching team are right up there as well. There's some kind of disconnect somewhere, because these players are scouting with 5-star potential and then coming in as a 2.5-star current ability, 3-star potential player. So there's some kind of breakdown along the line. I don't know if it's Paul McShane maybe just isn't very good at judging players and he's getting it wrong. Let's have a look. Paul McShane. He shouldn't be getting it that wrong. So I'm a little bit confused about where that breakdown in judging ability and judging potential is. I am working on the assumption these players are better than I'm being told they are. We're going to call it the de Klerk rule because de Klerk's come in as a 3-star player as well. And we know de Klerk is phenomenal. So if de Klerk is 3-star and those two are both nearly 3-star already, I'm less worried than I would have been ordinarily. But then we've also brought in a midfielder. Julien Okoa is a French 22-year-old, already full international, centre mid, attacking mid, can also play wide on either side, starts to fill some of those gaps a little bit further forward that we were talking about. He does come through as a 3.5-star current ability, 4-star potential player. So a little bit more about him maybe. He did a 7.26 average for Juventus in Serie A last year, and we have had to pay decent money for him as well. So he is also in, and we've brought in a backup goalkeeper because obviously we sold Kerbal. So Sinan Yilmaz has come in from Fenerbahce. He is a Turkish international already at 21 years old. Just the one cap, but one cap's plenty at the moment. Just a young goalkeeper who's happy to come in as backup and sit on our bench and not earn an absolute fortune doing it. So we've made a start on the squad. I think we've hit a few key areas there early on. If we just get this shuffled around and go to full squad view, I think Bazunu and then Yilmaz, and of course we've got the 2 young goalkeepers who've been out on loan, who can fill in the rest of the goalkeeping gaps for us as well. So I think we're fine in goal. I think the back 4 is now finished. Once we've got on the right side, you've got Posselt and Valente. On this side, you've then got de Klerk and Trilly. And then at fullback, Brindley and Vallejo over here. And then the 2 new boys over here, even though apparently neither of them are any good, are Okonkwo and Blanco. Obviously, Trilly and de Klerk can play out there, just like Posselt and Vallejo and Valente can play at left back. We've got decent defenders now. It's further forward we need to focus because we've only really got Sen as a striker, and because Kulusevski, Kvaratskhelia, Hernandez, these are all midfield players. And we have got the 1 extra body that comes into midfield now in Okoa, and Blanco, of course, can play in there as well. The youngster Isifu might get a little bit of a look in. So I think central midfield, if we're keeping Barella and Ravella with Okoa in there, I think we're probably fine for centre mid. I think we're probably okay. Out wide on the left, we've got Kvaratskhelia. Okoa can play out there. Mudryk, of course, is still here. Brindley can play out there. We've still got Brian Andre. Same on the right-hand side. Decent depth. Lee Barrett, the youngster, is coming through. But I think we could probably do with a striker. Like I say, we've only got Sen. At the moment, we've only got about £20 million left to spend. But of course, there's a lot of money in wage budget coming in. So if we were to move the wage budget so that we had, let's say, only £300,000 a week to give to a new striker, we can still go out and spend 85 million on one. So I'm thinking go and throw a lot of money at Harry Kane replacement is the next order of business. But I'm not going to rush into that. I'm probably going to wait until the 1st of July now, wait and see if there's any decent free transfers, just get a full confirmation of the lay of the land at the club once all these players leave and we're operating on a much lower budget, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do from the 1st of July. I think that's our early business complete, and now we'll just bide our time a little bit, and also we'll just wait and see if Manchester City decide to even interview me. I've never applied for a job this soon after getting a different one. I've been at Spurs less than a year, but I have just won the Champions League. You'd think I'd at least get a call back from the powers that be at Manchester City, but alas, there has been nothing so far. Right, it is the 1st of July. We're very carefully going through the squad, working out exactly what we've got. So I think this is where we are. 3 goalkeepers, Bazunu, Yilmaz, Quintilia. Happy with that. Left back, Brindley, Vallejo. Obviously, there are players you can cover in these positions, but I've tried to really narrow this down just to who our first choice options are in every one of the 11 positions. So 2 left backs, 2 left centre backs in Posselt and Valente. And then on the right-hand side, we've got de Klerk and Trilly. And then at right back, Okonkwo and Blanco. Now, a lot of those defenders are interchangeable and can cover more than one position. But that's how I view their primary positions. 8 defenders. Might be a little weak at right back still, but look at the values. I think I'll be proven right. And I'll argue it out with my staff later. And then as our deep lying playmaker, I think we've got Okoa, our new signing. This guy has just appeared from nowhere. Angus McGregor came through our youth system, was out on loan at West Brom in the Championship last year. I wasn't really aware he existed until he just arrived back this morning. And what do you know? He's pretty much first team ready and goes into the squad, probably ahead of Hernandez, who is probably now surplus to requirements if we're looking for 2 players in each position. Because we've got Okoa and McGregor for this side, and then Barella and Ravella both as box-to-box options to play on the other side. I guess we keep Hernandez around purely because Barella's 33, and that makes me a little nervous. And plus, McGregor's never played a first-team game for us. Then on the left-hand side, you've got Kvaratskhelia and Mudryk. Mudryk is actually unhappy at the club because apparently I broke a promise to him. I don't know what the promise was, but I broke it, apparently. And then this is where we start to look a little bit light. Only Kulusevski is an attacking midfielder. Although obviously we have got other players who can play there. Okoa can play there. McGregor can play there, apparently. Obviously, a lot of the wide players can play there, but it shows where we've got the weaknesses. If we put everyone in their main position, we've only got the 1 attacking midfielder, 3 right wingers, Rooney Bargi, Andre, Barrett, obviously Mudryk and Kvaratskhelia can both play on there as well. And most of these guys can play on the left. And then up front, we've only got Sen. So that tells me as a top priority, we need a striker and we need an attacking midfielder. So we're going to go out and get them. We've already got offers in. We've got an offer in for Ignacio Reyes, seem familiar. It just seems like the obvious guy to bring in as our striker. Liverpool are interested in him, so we feel like we probably need to act. He's a proven Premier League goal scorer with huge upside, really pacey, and we know what we're getting and we know he fits in the system. So we'll look to bring him in, and then Wilson Mane, who can play anywhere in the midfield, probably more of a central midfielder than an attacking midfielder, probably more the long-term Barella replacement, but it's another body in midfield. Obviously, Reyes can play as that attacking midfielder as well if need be, and we know we can cover across a few different positions. It does mean Isifu probably can go out on loan this season with McGregor appearing. He's only got 3. Again, another one. This guy was 5-star potential not so long ago. Now he's down to 3-star. I think my coaches need to have a word with themselves. They're being a little bit silly. But with that squad that we've just looked at, that is a squad of 25 players. Look at the change in the age profile compared to where we were a year ago when I arrived. Harry Kane is retiring as soon as the World Cup is done. So we've got a couple more weeks of paying him and then he retires. So Barella will be the only proper over 30. Kulusevski will be 30. But everyone else, I mean, half the squad are under 23 now, more than half the squad. That is a huge change from where we were. And it's also a massive change financially as well. I know we've spent a lot of money in transfers to get to this point, but we have won the Champions League. So there's a lot of money in the kitty, so it doesn't really matter. And we've massively reduced the wage expenditure. And there's still money to spend. We can still go and get Reyes. We can still go and get Mane, was that the other guy's name? And be fine and within all these budgets. I am excited for the season to come. I think this squad is finally starting to look like a team that I'd be interested in managing. I'm already managing them. A team that I think can do quite well. I just got distracted there because the Peterborough Sports job is available again. What's gone on at Peterborough Sports? Peterborough Sports have got through some managers since I left. So Dave Robertson lasted 282 days and got sacked. Matthew Carr, 357 days, got sacked. James Fowler resigned after 218 days. John Musinho got sacked after 152 days. And Luke Danks resigned after 200 days. So Peterborough Sports, not having the best of times, are still in the playable league. So it's not as desperate as things could have got for them. If they're still at this level of football in 2030 in real life, I think the people of Peterborough would see that as a massive, massive overachievement. But they are now looking for a new manager again, yet again. Obviously, we know how Preston are getting on, so we don't need to check in on them. But fingers crossed, we get the Reyes deal over the line. I haven't looked to see what free transfers are available. I'm just waiting for that email that comes in to show me players that have just been released. Here we go. So I guess we'll take these guys on trial, see if any of them are still up to it. We've triggered Mudrick's contract extension, which is going to make him grumpy, but he needs to cheer himself up. Now he's not. Oh no, he is still unhappy. He'll be fine. We'll see if we can bring in any of these freebies. We'll have a look to see if there's anything else that's come up on the scout reports for free transfers as well. But I think this squad is nearly done. The great rebuild is almost complete. Only costs like £400 million. Well, they've taken their time, but Manchester City have offered me an interview. One of the reasons they feel that they'll offer me an interview is because I'm an acceptable fit for the club's highly ambitious vision for the future. I mean, oh, you flirt, Khaldoon. You really do know how to make a man feel good. This is mainly as a result of my strong commitment towards playing attacking football. So this is the first interview I've had in my career that's not been as a result of me aiming for young players. So I don't know if that gives me an edge or not. Your managerial experience lacks variety. Can you tell me why you've only worked for a small selection of teams? 3 teams in 7 years isn't that small. I'm just not an old man. I think that's the problem. I have shown loyalty. I've not been at Spurs very long. You've previously been brought in media controversies. I don't believe I have. That's something I've learned from. There you go. We value longevity at this club, and recent history shows we're prepared to give the right manager a long time to get it right. Am I prepared to give a long-term commitment? Absolutely. I wouldn't be talking to you if Spurs weren't getting a little sacky with me. How would I feel about working with director of football? Don't mind that at all. The only backroom staff adjustment I'd need to make is bringing Michael Gash with me. So a small budget should be fine. And you'd be looking for me to sign high reputation players, play attacking football, develop young players, spend the original transfer budget. I think we'll be all right there. I think we'll probably be okay. Not sign old folk. qualify for the Champions League, win the Europa League. No mention of actually having to do anything. Oh, I guess qualify for the Champions League, looking for a top 4 finish, and then winning the Premier League next year. That all seems very doable. We're targeting Champions League qualification. Easy. Transfer budget of 203 million, you say? And I have to spend it all? We'll figure something out. Yeah, I think that's probably doable. 6 million for wages, you say? Again, I think I've just reduced Spurs down to like half of that and we won the Champions League. If this lot don't give me the job, they've lost their minds. Of course, I have now done a full summer of transfers. I mean, Ignacio Reyes is potentially going to be fuming here. He and de Klerk, to be honest, these boys could be about to join me at Spurs only for me to leave days later and go manage Manchester City, which would be absolutely bonkers. The one disadvantage I probably have got is I've got a relatively long contract left at Spurs and they might not want to buy me out of it. Pep Guardiola is still the strong favourite and he's unemployed, so he would be the cheaper option. Are Manchester City likely to go for the cheaper option? He is a club legend at Manchester City, which probably does stand in his favour as well. Well, Reyes and Mane are both in. I think the squad is close to being complete now, although I have just found this guy at Newcastle that I'd quite like because he covers so many positions we could do with covering. He's young, he's quick, and he's a decent goal scorer as well. There's still the whole cloud of I might be going to Manchester City hanging over all of this, but Pep Guardiola is still the strong favourite. So I'm assuming I'm going to be at Tottenham for the foreseeable. And if I am, and this ends up being the final squad, then I'm happy. If we're able to bring in Vincent as well, I'll be very, very happy. But looking at the squad breakdown, we certainly have some decent options up front now. Obviously, even with Kane moving on, Reyes and Sen get the job done up there. We've got decent cover in all of these wide attacking areas, centre midfield. The defence looks like the weak link, but we've got a lot of young up-and-comers back there. So I'm less worried defensively than maybe some of those star ratings would indicate. The likes of Posselt and de Klerk, I'm very confident are going to become very, very good Premier League defenders. Remember, Posselt at 22 is already considered an elite centre-back. So the fact he's showing us 3 stars, not that worried. He's an elite centre-back. It just shows just how good some of the more attacking players at the club are. The defenders aren't necessarily looking great. I've not had a look, actually, to see what the media think of my summer transfers. If we have a look at the season preview, they think we're third favourites to win the league. So that indicates they think we've had a pretty good summer when it comes to transfers, because I don't think we were that high up to begin with. So fingers crossed we can come in with that top 4. Like I say, would still like to get Vincent, would be interested in an offer if Manchester City came in, but not absolutely desperate to go. And it's still very early in the summer, so we'll see what happens for the rest of the window. I mean, you know how long's left in the video. I haven't got a clue. Anything could happen from here. Well, after all that, they didn't give me the job at Manchester City. They also didn't give it to Pep Guardiola. Graham Potter is the new Manchester City manager. He was previously the manager of Barcelona. Has he just left Barcelona? Oh, hello, Barcelona. Good evening. How you doing? Just popping by to say hello. Because that, of course, is an incredibly interesting job opportunity that we probably just have to slip a little application in for. And they immediately offer an interview, and we're right back in my comfort zone of deep commitment towards signing under 23s. They like that. However, concerns as to your suitability for our vision because of your apparent objection towards making set pieces an important part of the game. Have you seen my corner routines? Goodness me. Goodness me. Right, let's get into this interview. Hello, Jesus. How are you doing? Right. Jesus, David. What a name. That is a fantastic name. How would I overcome the relatively big obstacle of not speaking the language? It's probably best that this is all through a translator at the moment. I imagine he didn't pass on the whole Jesus David thing. Don't worry. I'm good at talking. I'll figure it out. Do I look Spanish to you? Come on, it'll be fine. I could... it's relatively easy language to learn. Yeah, exactly. I have some reservations regarding the fact you've never managed in this country. Don't worry about that. I've been there on holiday. That's basically the same. Yeah, I'll convince you some more. Why has my managerial career thus far lacked variety? All right, comment section. Goodness me. My word. Loyalty is the answer to that question. Media controversies. Yeah, I'm good at not doing them. The club is looking to hire a manager comfortable working with limited resources. Excuse me? You're Barcelona, are you not? Do we not have some levers we can pull? I don't understand. I mean, yeah, I can do that. I don't really want to do that. Do I want to work with current director of football, Matthew Alemany? He's got a beard, therefore he's fine by me. I do need to bring Michael Gash with me. So you want me to sign under 23s, work within the wage budget, sign players to sell for a profit, not sign old folk, work towards developing the best youth system in the country. Doesn't feel like that's part of my job. And challenge for the La Liga title. This all seems very achievable. Give that a big old tick. I don't think Barcelona live in the same reality as everybody else. Did we not just say limited resources? Now they're saying, but Kev, would £65 million be enough? Well, yes, Jesus. I did just win the Champions League and then be given a budget of 30 million. So I think this might be okay. Yeah, again, Jesus, that's double what the Champions League winners currently spending. That's basically what Manchester City, the team that don't understand financial restrictions, that's how much they're paying. So again, I don't think you know what financial restrictions are, Jesus. It's fine. But I'll just nod along and say, yes, I can stick to them. Oh, boys and girls, in quite the twist. We might be heading to Barcelona. They're requesting changes for backroom staff. Let's see if Michael Gash wants to come with me. Where is he? Where is he? Someone find me Michael Gash. Why can't I find him? Michael? I don't remember how this works. Oh, no. Am I looking up here? I don't think I remember how this screen works. Michael Gash, there he is. Desire to remain in the region where he currently... You don't want to come to Barcelona with me, Michael. Lionel Messi, one of my other coaches, also doesn't want to go to Barcelona. Feels they don't have the financial strength he expects. It's a story Barcelona have heard from Lionel Messi before, I believe. It looks like I'm not going to be... How bad are the finances at Barcelona? What am I potentially walking into here before I go and do something really dumb? They're in the Champions League. They've been battling for the title. They've got Gavi and Pedri still at the club. Have they been spending? Sort of. I mean, they've just signed Bullet from... Oh, God. Okay, they're not spending loads of money on him. That'd be awkward. He's earning less than he was at Spurs, so he didn't have a problem with going there. I mean, they're not competing for the £100 million players, are they? But I'm confused that there seems to be a huge problem there. We'll just suggest those changes, as in we don't need to make any. You're not going there for that kind of money, no. We're trying to get a few players out of the club so that we can make room for Vincent to come in as our final signing. We haven't quite got the budget to bring him in. I'm hoping if we can loan out Andre and Hernandez, plus Harry Kane retiring and going from 100k plus a week as a player to 12 grand a week as a coach, and we are keeping him on as a coach. Hopefully, those extra bits of wage, like the extra 200,000 thousand a week of wages from those three changes, there you go, there's your confirmation, means we should be able to bring Vincent in. There's your Harry Kane career. The one club trophy he won was that Champions League in his final appearance. He did win a few things with England as well, which I guess is nice. But you're welcome, Harry. You are welcome. That's why he's going to be a coach for me. Perhaps I'll take him to Barcelona with me. I don't understand. Am I going or not? Does the fact we've done that, does that mean I need to stop worrying about trying to sign this Vincent guy? He's still the favourite at the moment, the Fiorentina manager. I don't want to go there. I'm not going to keep chasing every job that becomes available when I don't get one. I'm not that afraid Spurs are going to sack me. I actually think we've got quite a good squad now, and we probably will finish top 4. I'm less afraid now than I was at the start of the video, but I can see Barcelona in with an offer, and I'm going to have a decision to make. Well then. Okay, I would like it on record. I wouldn't even be considering this if Spurs weren't this close to sacking me before I delivered them a Champions League. And I do feel like they don't deserve me. Daniel Levy, even now, this Vincent guy that I want to bring in, I asked if we could just sign him anyway. We're this close to being able to afford him. We've got money in all the budgets. And Levy's like, no, we don't need him. I really insist that we could bring him in. No, we don't need him. You've had enough. You've got plenty. I think it's really important. Doesn't matter what you think, really. It's basically what I'm getting from Daniel Levy. He just seems like a total wang. It is going to take a pay cut to go to Spain. But you know what? I am worried for my future here at Spurs because they've come so close to sacking me already. I'm on 115 grand a week here with 2 years remaining on my contract. Barcelona offering me a 3-year contract at 84k a week. These aren't the same kind of decisions I was having to make when it was between being on 18 grand at Preston or 20 grand at wherever else it was, or 100 grand at Spurs. This is Spurs for about £5 million a year, or Barcelona for about £5 million a year. Weigh in the fact that Spurs came so very close to sacking me. Even now, I'm only a C+. They're upset with some of the transfers I've done even. So I think I go. I think it serves Spurs right. I've come in, I've given them a taste of how things could have been. I've won them a Champions League. I've completely rebuilt their squad in less than a year. Yes, we've spent a lot of money doing it. I mean, we've spent, in the time I've been here, about £600 million. We've brought in about 250. So it's a net spend of over 330-ish million. It's a big net spend. A lot of it is in transfer debt that they're going to have to pay off over the next few years. They've taken a risk player-wise, but I feel like they've not taken a risk with me because they were so close to sacking me. And I don't forget. I think I'm leaving them in good shape, but it can be someone else's problem. Now, Harry, you take over. See if I care. I'm off to Barcelona. Please don't be an absolute financial disaster. Oh, please, please. Right. So just to clarify, the total debt at Spurs is 700 million. This is what I'm walking away from. They're considered rich. Let's negotiate with Barcelona. See if we can force this up any higher. Can you come above what I'm getting at Spurs? No, 92. 92 is more though. How about 105? Not 92. What about 96? 92. 94? 90. Okay, so 90. I get the feeling 92 might be your upper limit. So that's fine. 92. We're going. Balls to you, Spurs. You brought this on yourself. I didn't like you anyway, and you treated me like poo. So, niblets. No, yeah, fine. I'll make him captain on the way out. There you go. Sling the captain's arm. And you're in charge, Ismail. I'm off to Spain. Balls to the lot of you. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.